point to for talk. You will get smartphone, you can turn around to that screen there and use that code video on the screen and ask a question. You will come immediately now. We have other people already check them question and they and una within the room. We also take some you can even vote for a question for make sure say power for answer that question if somebody don't ask a question. So in case you don't get access to the mic, or whilst you speak at the talk, because not as you talk at the open for question, would they allow everybody for talk first, then I open for question. Whilst you talk, if you don't want to forget your question, you can use that platform there as well for immediately put your question in. So I will don't know and I will prep as well for let you able for answer the question you don't put forward. Going forward, we also don't move the press conference to Tuesday. In order for that happen Thursday again. Now we plan scam, Friday, and every Thursday we do the press conference. We try for institutionalize this Tuesday now. Because it's a bit early in the week, we believe say we get a better chance for let we news make the newspaper then go do Thursday, Friday. If you late, you don't publish, some man they even work Friday, you know they get right. So one let government information be part of the conversation for the week. We get for the make sure say each press conference cover specific themes then. One, and very important, now whatever cabinet and major decisions then will not happen towards the end of that week, the whole Tuesday, we start with that. And that day we focus particularly on the big five. So if we get, like today we hope say we brought the chief minister, but he extend the apologies, go there for set the scene for we. So each press conference we will get a principle from one of them big picture that day. Second, or if somebody not obviously na me own job than between me and the deputy and members of the ministry for lead on that part. But each press conference will also focus on some socio-economic issue. So the economy, bread and butter, like how some people like for color. And today we get the highest person in the country we can talk about that when our Minister of Finance. That is important. As necessary, we also get for the focus on security issues. So as a thematic area for the press conference and the conversation, we want for to provide updates on the state security issue, any new information there, and we get for partner with security apparatus for let them use this platform as well, for let them communicate generally to the people of this country. And then, like how the minister say, because we get a civic engagement and civic education portfolio, we don't want to let this, because it's a big platform, so we're going to carry alive and all there, we want to also be a platform where we interact with civil society. Some civil, social justice issue there, we're burning, we're newsworthy. Sometimes might not even be things that we necessarily fully agree with, but an opportunity for us to get a conversation and a discussion. We commit to and say we make this platform as well open for the civil society and with other partners in the civic engagement world for let them come and share any updates we then get. That is the framework. Now, it's my pleasure for call the first speaker, when we distinguished Honorable Minister for the money business, for finance, for let he talk to them and open on which are the updates them from a ministry on the economy. We know say we just don't present a supplementary budget. Any additional information or clarification, you will set the scene, and like I say, you hold on to your question. You can either use the app now and write some in, or you hold on when they all done presents done, we will open up for questions. And I thank you, Honorable Minister.
Civic education and family on afternoon. I'm glad for the house. And when I know say we don't engage on the economy. I mean, just a few minutes where I take both. I go deliver the supplementary budget. Of course, you go ask why we know that, because we just don't pass budgets last year. December, we come in to make sure say by the 1st of January, we begin to spend on the resources that we generate for the government. But we notice 6 months into the year, but putting in the way happen, we make them budget appropriation where Parliament can pass, most of the assumptions that will be underpin them, there are also assumptions that they don't shift. So it makes sure, say, some of the allocations that will be done program for the MDAs then certainly will be required for revise them. Secondly, the what we call macro framework, meaning all the potential for revenue expenditures and the things that really drive growth. Most of them development and they don't shift because of some of the development that will take place outside of Sierra Leone. For example, the persistent of war in Ukraine, supply chain challenges, but also as well some of the disruptions in terms of rising price of petroleum and essential commodities. We don't make growth projections, or we don't make for the economy. We get for revise them somewhat to face the reality. And also, it makes sure say the rise in those prices of goods and services, even with projections on servicing debt, but also funding foreign missions and some of the MDAs, then we'll be able to make sure say we revise them. As well, the new development that we manifest to the new government and the pronouncement that the government with the president make on new MDAs, this one, we're at the MICE, but also technology, infrastructure, initiative on climate change, food security, and the like. Those ones and sustainable energy will be able to make sure so we're able to account and factor for them and then begin to work. As well, this country in 2022 faced some serious shock. The way we end up the year, we end up with very huge deficits. So we got to begin to think how we consolidate the economy itself in public finances and make sure that we stabilize for able to foster growth going forward. So that'll be the underpinning of the supplementary budget. That's why we went back. And what are the big dynamics then? One, when I noticed say in the course of the year in April, we introduced the Finance Act because nobody introduced Finance Act at the last budget statement. But we see the need in the course of the year for introduce Finance Act. In the Finance Act, they introduced some new tax measures. And then tax measures, they border on closing loopholes, some of the tax annuals, especially corporate tax. Also, we decided to introduce minimum alternate taxation. Because before now, what thing that happened is that we companies them, we get the liberty for declare losses and not pay profits corporate taxes at all. This will affect a lot of them for predict the money we get from this tax annual. So we introduce a minimum tax. What the minimum tax they tell you is that you really need for fully declare your overall operations of your books or as a company, and if you really not make profit, will they say that you pay minimum tax? So if you make profit, will they assess you on the real profitability that you make, and then you pay the tax accordingly? So, but just for discourage some of the loopholes, then what we do is we revise with GST as well. The GST, the goods and service tax, we get a lot of exemptions. Why we get an exemption, the exemption we're not supposed for really be given at all. But what we do, we protect the poor people, and then we introduce their aspect, and they will not be originally captured. And so the aspect, then they will be noticed, say, NRA will be new institution. NRA, at the time when they introduce them, not be able for full, get for building capacity for able for do an assessment of certain category of GST taxes, what we try for make sure we introduce. But in the same vein, we give waivers for many of the items that will not say they affect poor people, rice and the like, So that's not the kind balance hold though. Several other areas of taxation where we introduce measures on, government with excise tax, for example, where they call sin tax on tobacco products, sugar products, alcohol and the like, where we believe is supposed to be a workhorse as well for taxation, where we revise the tax, but also on petroleum products. We revise those taxes relatively upwards, slightly, basically for really manage the externalities of people consuming those goods and making sure that we harmonize the taxes, but not only that, increase some of the uptake on them for make sure say we will predict. Some of the aspects of the reforms that we introduce, that reforms the way they enhance the technology of NRA for make sure say they become more efficient in collecting taxes. So on excise, for example, we introduce track and trace systems, both for accessible commodities, but also we introduce something called fair marking system for petroleum products, following for assess we tax all the get for petroleum products to the country. several other small areas, and they will introduce tax measures. Really, all our effort, they introduce an average of additional 2.2% of GDP increased revenue we're supposed to collect in the course of the year. So that's new money, right? Then we get new money beyond the one way that we approve in December. And then we introduce the GUI SDR allocation of about $1 billion from the IMF. These are additional money into the budget. Will not be there originally, right? And then so when you get a new money here, plus also you get expenditure measures the way you get for you make sure say you reduce some of the otherwise big spending on infrastructure and make sure say you rationalize the budget. Now when you do that, the budget framework change. Plus also with this new money that we'll get, and then new ministries that we will introduce, and all that here, you really need to go back and go seek legal appropriation for expending new money here at the government. So that's what's the underpinning. Now, all of this, I think, is important for a lot of people to understand. But what we try to do is, we then changes here, and in 2022, we don't get a very, because of the impact that I don't talk about, the deficit was so high, close to about 10% of GDP. What we do with the adjustment here, efforts at raising revenues, but also these new resources that will come and the discipline we introduce in the expenditure management system, we expect that at the end of this year, we will not shrink or consolidate the budget for just about 5.4% of GDP. So that process of deficit, budget deficit relative to gross domestic product, we will reduce them to 5.4%. Now, this is what we call fiscal consolidation, meaning we take effort them, raise revenue, become more disciplined, ease up the pressure they get on both debt service but also with expenditures, and make sure so we budget rationalize. Why is this important? When you get too much high budget deficit, the way you finance them, they put pressure on the central bank, right? By the way you finance it, but they put pressure on the central bank. Central bank will be forced to do high-powered lending to we. Right? We then do high-powered lending, it introduce more supply of money to the economy, it affects inflation, it affects even the value of the currency. So we try to take a posture of ensuring that we instill fiscal discipline. That fiscal discipline, they ease the pressure on the central bank in the way they manage the economy and try to instill what we call macroeconomic stability. So that's the underpinning, but as it is going forward, with the project, say, in the course of the year, even though we get moderate growth because of all the development that will not take place, and if we do fiscal consolidation efforts, what we do right now, we expect that by next year, in terms of outlook, this country will begin to grow at a reasonable level, close to about 4.78% of GDP, even more bigger than that in 2024. So as we're going right now, the posture we'll get, we don't begin with the send out when they call budget called circular. We now begin the budget preparatory process, where we involve all ministries, departments, and agencies of the government on the back of the new framework where we get right now, backed by some of these tax measures, but also the posture we'll take around managing expenditures, and engage with the general public for write the new budget for next year. So that process doesn't really start. But in the course of the year, what did we do when we get all the difficulties here with the people that we face? We try to ensure that, say, goods and services are available in the country. We don't get any shortages in the country. Definitely, fuel is there in the country. Rice available. We have never had shortages. What we may be grappling with are the prices internationally. Okay, and I'm open to discuss those issues. And the reason why we have adjusted petroleum pricing in the country is because of the pressure it has on the budget. It is very expensive because we are importing oil. And international price of oil and the currency value has been very high. It's been dropping and depreciating. So we need to be doing the relevant adjustment for ease the pressure on the budget because we are subsidizing. But what we have done as a government, not only subsidize and fully pass through that cost of people. We not say it's not easy for keep on the budget. So slowly we adjust until such time when we will pass through fully. However, there are several other measures will be taken for make sure to assuage the cost on the vulnerable people of these issues, of this rising prices on essential goods. We do safety net. We do cash for work. We do resources for youths and women We get Munafa that the women have access to. About it, we able for support close to about 10,889 beneficiaries, 75%.
The work. We live in a period where crisis there across the world, but the government of Salone through the Ministry of Finance don't take specific steps there for stabilize the economy and improve the situation at the country. One of them steps that we don't take, we mentioned, that with these budgets, and they try for let government raise more money because they will be lost money because people they balance the tax code. And in addition to that, we don't get additional resources as well from the IMF. And this new budget, they don't put that additional resources, they go seek Parliament's their approval for how they for spend them, including for continue for support young people, women, the poor across the country, as well as for focus on President's bill in big 5 priorities that we don't lay out for a second time. So we tell the Minister plenty thank you. Another highlight what I think so for remember is in the midst of all these global challenges that we'll get and the economic challenges that the world, by the way, all across the world they face. Now that they don't manage the economy, the government of Salone don't manage the economy well enough for ensure say nobody need to line for rest in Salone. Fuel always there. So goods and services they're available. We deal with price issues, but even that we do it in a structured and systematic way. That there is clarity, like, and the economy is stable. So one for tell you plenty thank you. And I hope say we in the media, including for example the editors and other people there, will take their message here and an indication say for come to this press conference because we will make sure say the information will be substantive. Now we will switch quickly and we come to the security sector. We get with we the Inspector General of Police for the country, and I know say Boku news don't dey over the past few days, and people then get specific questions there. We then get about what's the state of the security. Before we IGP talk, I want to acknowledge the presence of a brother, we are the press secretary for His Excellency the President, the primary spokesperson. I know say they are for not only rendering support, but as well at some point if I get specific question for him, a man who I know say always ready. So Mr. Solomon Jamiru ASQ, we tell you thank you for joining me. IG Fire Selu, the ball in your court, sir.
Fambulem on our afternoon. Glad for the part of this maiden press briefing by the new minister and the team. Generally, I want to say the general security situation across the country is calm and quiet. If you don't come and quiet, you don't go do something supervised. We're all for the government, but it's not like that. I want to talk on 2 issues. The first one, the subversion, who will investigate, Sierra Leone police. Then the second one, therefore, be this helicopter where come down Mashure around our Waterloo axis. We don't come out to so many tourists. I know we know how Salone gets engineering. That's what this thing happens. Let's start with the first one. Monday, the 31st of July, we informed the general public said the security sector will follow a lead where they point towards some people there, where their activities then amount to for bring Puskas and the country, for can destroy property, for can destroy life, and at the end of the day, for can change government where they just don't elect. So in pursuit of Tawandi, we as police, we institute investigations into Tawandi. Well, of course, during the investigation, we don't do a number of arrests. And the arrest is predicated on the evidence. So as at the talk so now, we get now custody 8 middle level Republic of Sierra Leone Armed Forces officers. When I say middle level, it range from lieutenant to major. We get 8. We get 6 non-commissioned officers of the house staff also, NCOs from private to sergeant, that category. Then we get 2 serving members of the Sierra Leone Police, 1 sub-inspector and 1 police constable. Then we get also, as recently as this morning, 1 retired chief superintendent of police inside in our custody for this investigation. Alongside all them, we also get 2 civilians with themselves helping for this investigation. As we investigate, we find out say we still don't put out a manhunt for a couple of people more, and that include 5 house staff personnel. Out of that 5, 2 are middle level officers, then 3 are non-commissioned officers. Then on the police side, we look for 3 Sierra Leone police personnel, 1 sub-inspector and 2 police constables. In the face of all this, as security sector, we want to assure the public say we are fully in control, we are fully in charge, and we are running things. We don't do a couple of things. We don't beef up the border security post them, the border patrols, we don't beef them up, we don't increase them by a huge margin. Constantly we got joint patrols, the military and the police along the borders, we don't do that. Then of course, the posture across the board, across the country, we don't change the posture because of what we look at, the mass of the taking off guard. So we don't change the posture, we don't do that. Additionally, we don't step up the intelligence collection outfit. We don't deploy a lot of assets out there, not only police bandit, but even civilians who don't bring them on board for providing with the intelligence. So we have to assure members of the public say when they make up, when they go about the normal business, but with the advice say, if you see something, say something. If you see anything where suspicious in a community, report it. If you see anything where not satisfy you, report it to we so that we go for act on it. Once you don't say, you not concern me, so not to my business, who knows what will happen next. So that is the status of that investigation. So as of now, we will continue the investigation and anything can happen. If you myself was it also along the line, if the evidence point for me, hold myself. So I'm not above the law. I'm also subject to that particular law. So let people that remain at ease, make them no worry about nothing. The second issue we are want to talk about now this helicopter we gone down at Mashure village, about 15 miles from Waterloo. On Saturday, the 5th of August, around 11:51 hours, 1 helicopter, registration number Z5-RWT, the type na AS350. It do 1 landing where they call precautionary landing, na that Mashure village, 15 miles from Waterloo. This helicopter, it belongs to 1 company where they call Sky Horse Aviation Company. We get the headquarters in Pretoria, South Africa. Now 2 people fly this helicopter. 1 British, Richard Leach, and 1 South African, Nicholas Barman. Then 2 people also, they are certified pilots, certified by the South African Civil Aviation Authority. We'll get a certificate there. Of course, we don't do an investigation into all of this while they talk. So the helicopter, then they use them for do what we call mineral exploration surveys with mining companies and environmental protection agencies in different parts of Africa, Europe, and Asia. This helicopter with then 2 pilots on board. They left South Africa, Pretoria specifically, on the 28th of July. Then they go on an exploration exercise. Now Greenland. For come South Africa, for whole Greenland, you have to pass through so many airspaces. Right there, what did they do? They seek landing rights for all the airspaces that were going to fly. And also the fees they will need for refuel because the helicopter is small. You need to take large volume of fuel we need for go very far. So it's like after every 4 hours, you need for cannon and refuel. So you get to pass through the airspace of Botswana, Namibia, Angola, Gabon, Ghana, Liberia, Sierra Leone. Then subsequently, if you go Gambia, Mauritania, the Canary Islands, then they end up in Greenland. Sierra Leone, for example, if you get a landing permit, where they get agents, the house civil aviation they operate, you can be agents for take landing permit for flights where they can land at the country for refuel. Most times, and for just refuel, not for even sleep. If you go for sleep, the permit will specify as such. For this particular flight, then get the agent, Patrick Soe Kamara, waiting on number 8C Captain Peru Lane off Wilkinson Road, in an agent for this Sky Housing Aviation Company. The secure landing permit for this helicopter, where the landing permit number is LP/010-823-057. That's not the landing permit number. Dated the 1st of August 2023. And the person who signed this permit, Nawab Usman B. Jallo, is signed on behalf of the Director General, Sierra Leone Civil Aviation Authority. We investigate the pilot. The pilots, they say, at about 11:40 hours, even the flight, he left from Monrovia, the Cameroon Freetown. Because, of course, the agents, they wait at the airport, and will not reach there by 12 o'clock for refuel and go. So 11:40, even the fly at 1,000 feet above sea level. They notice the helicopter vibrates some kind of way, they be so fearful. 9 then struggle, then put a candle. Now this is Bashore village. Then put a candle, then call control tower, then alert them, say we will not reach this particular level. They're able to locate them precise location by latitude and longitude, then transmit them to the control tower for telling them who side specifically. The control tower, the security officer at the airport, Lawrence Conte, he called the police director of operations, he got that information. So they are able to reach there and he see them with man there. As they reach together, the ONS people, they said they reach the airport authority people, the civil aviation authority, they said they reach there. Then conduct a search on this helicopter. They not see anything of police interest on this helicopter. We interview people will see what this helicopter they struggle for Canada. They tell me precisely, say, then see this helicopter, they wouldn't see if they don't say the strain for really for land, otherwise it will crash. As a land, they have go to the motive and they watch out of curiosity. They left the watch, police they come civil aviation authority they come ONS people they come then together they conduct the search. But one thing we clear now that all them people that we talk to, no say you see they take box give us. No talk say you see motor car they can load box you can go. Nobody no say you see boat car they can load come as opposed to what you hearing on social media. How they left in the inside boat, speedboat car, going to move, all of those concussions. So, but we get interviews so conduct on the spot. Nobody will say you see the tooth box. Nobody will say you see them tooth something pull, somebody can do something. No. So that's how the thing happened. Then of course, Sierra Leone Civil Airport Authority, they come with 2 certified engineers for their aircraft. They can do small thing on this helicopter. Then do ground one small. Then you say, well, this one, we can move am small. We no Lungi, but we left on Hastings. So they move am from that point. They come on at Hastings. As we talk, so a park at the Sierra Leone Armed Forces Air Force Base. The status now is that they don't fly in 2 engineers from South Africa for can fix the helicopter for them continue for go on an assignment. This helicopter and the helicopter will do exploration. Some of you will not see them here before this time. I remember 2016, 2011, where they came out, one helicopter they do similar assignment. You get big thing on a satellite dish. They fly all over the top. They do mineral exploration. So that is the status of the helicopter. The pilot in there, where the engineer come from South Africa, all the way with we own civil aviation expert them, engineer them, then go look up, then fix them, we check them. We have all the documents, the flight route, the landing permit, the man certificate, copies of the certificates, and everything that they need for flight. So that is the status of this investigation. So maybe that all and so forth.
They not just disrupt this investigation, they get people in custody which supports them right now in the investigation, and they want to assure family now who say nothing only for worry about the country insecurity and safety, they assured. We professional officials and they on top of the situation. As far as the preliminary land is concerned, the information very simple. They don't conduct a thorough investigation. In fact, not to say me a plane will just come up from the sky will not be no but. We get records say they will already ask for land mass alone. And they don't also, in the abundance of caution, even though they may know this, they don't go shake that plane, turn all thing over, check everything for make sure so we don't left no stone unturned. And then professional they have, both from the security and the civil aviation authorities, and get confidence, say nothing or they with anybody need to worry about, and everything is safe. And now get the pleasure for welcome the youngest chief minister in the history of Sierra Leone, the, how do you call her? Salon Power Salon Power the father of radical inclusion. What can I say? Well, so my Creole, I say, well, you don't set the bar on radical inclusion. So radical inclusion may not get this conversation about how Creole important. He obviously has not known a very busy man. We're really grateful that he's there. So we will just say a few words. I mean, don't get a brief for say, but just set the scene and set the stage about how we will approach government communication with a priority of His Excellency, especially in this second term, but for him as Chief Minister in the first 100 days. So we'll just give you some quick highlights and then we'll come to his sister, Sally.
Multiple people that tell me, say, hey, we're going to count CDS and IG for cancer people then. That they will not do that deal. But it's not different government. With IG and CDS, then they talk to people then, but wait till they happen. We know they talk them because we want to talk. We know say communication is important in the part of governance. And within governments they do, the local therefore do. Una self as Istanbul, they get for EPWI, for do that work there. And we know that we responsibility for communicate to Una. Responsibility for making Una know what they do and how they do it. And so that Una self for EPWI, and we'll tell Una what Una need for do for EPWI for deliver for all man. As a government, I know soon I don't hear everybody big five, and I don't study and yet and study them by heart. All my books study them by heart. Because the big five, nine, they tell we about how we get for transform the country. Feed salon, the meeting where leads for come on, where we make idea. His Excellency when they meet with the Minister of Agriculture, with the Deputy then for talk about the big five, but feed salon in particular, and just always know the strategy and always know the plan, how they get for do that in a dandy now just come up and feed salon really important. Very much linked to human capital development. With the second one, we talk about school feeding, all things interlinked. And this we approach with the open for national development, skills development. We have a young man there, a young woman, and we need for learn the appropriate skills. Because we learn the skills, like we go to the third one, we employment. where you get the skills, then you're able to do employment. This now not to just waiting governments they do, but entrepreneurship back, they find that employment there. And when you do employment, all like a public sector, public service delivery, only two they do, like now, body business or school business, the public service delivery, public sector. So the revamping of the public sector, and all man we did it, and with all responsibility, because no matter what you do, and whether you get a job or not, if the public sector not they work for you, we're not able to get a country where they get development. And finally, underpinning all of that in digital and infrastructure, we need to make sure say the thing that they connect all the things that they work. Internet for the, light for the, road for the, water for the, how they pay for the, I don't can work out cash, so mobile money for the, all things for the. And the importance for me we understand that that development. So that's the big five. I will never forget quiz and then school there, but the big five. But really, the minister then, the ministry and the head of agency then, they get responsibility to communicate. You know, they compare our trade versus whatever, but we understand, say, we responsibility now for make many people they know how they go, how we come out, what we don't do today, what policy pass now, parliament, what policy pass now, cabinet, what are the guidelines with it, how Ministry of Finance they engage with revenue, because now we all responsibility. May not just be say, everybody you know like private sector, everybody you know like this, or we'll talk together. And then the general vision, where His Excellency don't say, for make many countries go before, for really strengthening cohesion, for strengthening national development, we for stay connected with the issues, and when I get right to ask we, question them, what they do, and we set get right to respond. Our responsibility for respond and engage with the citizens. And at the general direction, I don't know if you, okay. Thank you, I'm really glad here. I shall say, but COUP minister there, this is not secret, no, they don't know it. But the ministries and the minister they get to be part of the evaluation in their participation in the Ministry of Information, the press conference. So you don't be impacted.
You don't start with flying columns. Sally Adams, we are the president for Women's Forum, Salon. He gets a brief press release and he said, "One talk to the woman there. That's alone and want to use this platform. We want to give an opportunity there and they will open and we start this conversation."
First of all, I want to say thanks to the minister and the team for where they lead the Women's Forum Sierra Leone and the National Women's Umbrella. We can talk on the press release and for talk to a woman outside there, especially the woman the way, Namakituma the way they don't feel aggrieved. But basically, let's first of all talk about Women's Forum, just like 1 minute. Say Women's Forum like National Umbrella, where they formed in 1994. For next women, they will know they work with the government, NGOs, they come together and for discuss on issues that will affect women and that in Sierra Leone. So basically, the Women's Forum are 29 years old. So if we talk about the National Women's Umbrella, we are the mama. So anything what they say, what they see on social media or they read, where we know still those vulnerable women the way they outside there. If you politician, you're able for do to them good or empower them, you're not for use them for do bad acting. But before I say anything, I just want to give this press statement. Then I want to go viral because it's coming from the Women's Forum Sierra Leone. So Women's press release from Women's Forum Sierra Leone. The Women's Forum Sierra Leone, the national umbrella organization for women's groups in the country, is deeply concerned about videos and audios being rounds on social media in which some people are calling on certain market women and other women to stage a protest on Monday, the 14th August, 2023. Before I do this release, I call Auntie Maribo Kande because none of the presidents of the market women. And market women, the part of Women's Forum Sierra Leone. So if I can really remember the last August 10, I saw begin to see audios, them, videos that they come around and say, put the one that must straight. We undermine them. And the end of the day, we see them. When anything happen like chaos, violence against women and girls, we women of this country, that we suffer most. Sometimes the man let everyone away and go, they left over in our house, and we could take care of them. So this time on, any information we get about women in Africa for demonstrate, the Women's Forum Sierra Leone, we quickly call meeting, discuss them, and see the way forward, and stop women. Because $10 for the women in this country, yeah? We are talking about the big five change. We have to say, Makituma and Abacha, Lonely, none of them will take opportunity. Because they do business and feeding people, agriculture inside there. So as market women, they don't need for going to for the go demonstrate, or people they want for use them. But this time when they talk about any possible way to use them and they, when we get hold of you, we say we begin to them and within a court. Because none of them can't use woman them because they're vulnerable, they not get, but they use them as sheets for the mosquito and skit. No. If we can't say, okay, we want to empower the woman there, we will agree. But if we're going to use them as the mosquitoes, we're not going to agree on that. I will still continue for a press release. The thrust of the audios and videos is that the women should protest because of the removal of skit traders from the central business district, which was Abacha skit, and even Lonely. Yeah, so we all want for still the country to develop. You know, good way they remove them, maybe they'll not be informed them, we don't know. But if state they don't remove them, they not get the right, but say they go domesticate because they remove them. I feel say they get a channel, we got the market women, they get an election. They follow pass to them because market women, they part of Women's Forum. We follow come together and see them grievances there. How we say we for link with Ministry of Gender, then for still the way forward to the government. But they okay. So, the Sierra Leone Market Women Association is a registered member of the Women's Forum and is obliged by statute to channel its complaints and grievances to the umbrella body that is saddled with the responsibility of seeking redress for their concerns or remaining the situation. We therefore appeal at the calls via audios and videos for protest by an affiliate body of the organization without informing the leadership about their concerns. It should also be noticed that the call for protest does not have the approval of the security forces and is seen as an attempt to encourage women to participate in an unlawful protest. As a law-abiding organization, we will retreat our associate bodies to always follow the due process and not indulge in illegal acts. For this reason, Women's Forum Sierra Leone wants to encourage the Sierra Leone Market Women Association to channel their grievances to their leaders, who in turn will present the case to the Women's Forum for negotiations. As citizens of this country, we have the right to demonstrate, but we must obey the laws of the land and continue to maintain the peace we are all enjoying today. Finally, Women's Forum Sierra Leone condemns all unlawful demonstrations by any group as it undermines our democracy and errors the gains we have made as a country over the years. Protests are part of our democracy, but the law must upheld all times. As I say again, Women's Forum, not till today, we don't begin to negotiate about peace. We responsible necessarily for disappoint them. But Women's Forum, when it comes to Mitumani 1, 2, and 3, and if we get peace in our country, now Women's Forum, we let peace before election for the support area. When now we almost made attempt that we go to that engagement before the sample. So we don't try hard, even when it comes about the giving. The Women's Forum, we do work in collaboration with the Ministry of Gender for ensure say the law they passed. So today, we as Women's Forum, we don't want to see some women they suffer or begin they die because I remember August 10th, where that could they become. Begin they be die. Police they be die. Journalists they be injured. So this time they talk to me about a woman them. Let me happy where this press conference when I still was talking Creole, because the woman outside they are not so all man was having English. And this thing where they go on so now certain groups of women them we know the part of market women. Because market women then women know where they on a women's forum, they're still gonna market they sell. Then why they can create all this kind thing where they want to use them. Now the one that split that the one that long the one about when no they sell market. So me market woman they outside there do ya me at the talk to woman. If anything they will don't go wrong between Una and the government, Una lay with Una a market woman president and to my live can then you go China and so we will say we'll see what we go do. Because now what we want a development. What will happen last year when you tell them from Honorable Guinea put them we don't have to go back into that again. Do you mean at the appeal? Any market woman get grievance, if you don't forget to anti-Marie, when are the president, we can come back to women's homes because we are all registered with we. So that is my meeting.
We get 30 minutes for questions and conversations, and then we will pull the curtain on this we made in press conference. Be bold in on a court. We'll keep an eye as well on the app. If somebody want to use that, you can ask the question. So, what will you do since we get, yes, since we get
ECOWAS for attack Niger or not?
Version. Now, evidence. I think I said no evidence of evidence document only. So the evidence, not the whole person for that thing. So that's clear. The evidence, you will see also evidence point by you with the whole, yeah. So that's the answer to that question. Then the other question when they ask me is why it takes so long. I don't know if you say it takes so long, but the reason why it takes such a time to all come out with these explanations is because we wanted to investigate thoroughly. And now as I'm talking to you, we have every document I've mentioned. I have the copy of the document. I have their certified, their certificates certified by the South African Civil Aviation Authority. I have the flight routes of their helicopter. I have the landing permit. I have everything that they needed to travel. So we wanted to be thorough on that one. That's why it took us 24 hours to come up with the statement. We really want you guys to start picking into what we are saying after we have come up hurriedly. So I'm thorough on what I've said. I have every evidence to substantiate what I've said.
Aviation Authority we put out a press statement as well, immediately on the same day. And a few journalists then reached out to me as well for clarification, and I did provide a clarification to the journalists. And the Salon position on ECOWAS, Leone an active participating member of ECOWAS, and the ECOWAS position is consistent with the position. So any position, the ECOWAS position was unanimously taken at a meeting that Leone was present, and even if we were not, they, as always, consistent as a member of ECOWAS, they abide by the decisions and the conclusions of ECOWAS. And on this specific question, I think there's another question from Stephen as well about troops and all that. The ECOWAS position, which is being reported now that ECOWAS, they go streets, guns blazing, ECOWAS, they employ other means, including mediation, and part of the strategy now that they hope, say, the military coup leaders then currently go see reason based on their engagement, and they will not get to that position. But the government of Sierra Leone, a member of ECOWAS, and the government of Sierra Leone, they support and fully they in line with the ECOWAS position. So I hope that they make that clear. My sister, thank you for the question about the feeling about being young. I think what we experience in Salon is unprecedented. It's not just me, but President Biodon appoints, I think, and we never do the research now, probably the youngest, definitely the youngest cabinet in the history of Sierra Leone, or one of the youngest that Africa will ever see. We get that 2-year-old minister. We get definitely the highest number of under 40s in a cabinet ever. We just put the first cabinet orientation the other day, and it was really refreshing for see so many young people across the table. And as I don't see before, not just young people that are tokenized, but young people with it because they are professionals, because they get a record of accomplishment. So first, I think the President, Julius Maada Bio, deserve credit for the boldness the radicalism, if you like, for say, let we entrust leadership in young people. But I don't make clear, say, waiting President Biodon should be the norm, not the exception. Because the demography of this country, these are the most inclusive cabinets in history. It's the most representative cabinet of the identity of Salone. Salone is a young country. And President Biodon appoints a cabinet where it reflects the identity of this country. So it's an honor for me and my colleagues for work and learn from other people in our cabinets. As I don't say, we approach her with humility, but also understanding the weight of this expectation that a whole generation they look at we, and we need to step up to the challenge. But I can assure you, like how the Chief Minister can always say, let nobody, if you think, say, you underestimate me because we're young, you are mistaken. Because we are ready for the task, and we therefore do this job with every zeal where we get inside with. And we will do it because we understand that a historic opportunity for making change for other young people. On the question of we engagement with other ministers, I think you already, the Chief Minister already set the tone. That part of what he get for use for George, even other cabinet ministers, now the engagement with the information sector. When I see me post the other day about me and the press secretary about how we therefore make accessibility, not just through this platform, but also informally and other engagement, and for them get access to the principles in government. And all I will say to the media that give me a chance. Even this is not yet how we want it to be. We want to make it even better. But just give me a chance. Just allow me to spend some time and we will get it right. I want to do justice because I will ask other people for right questions. So I lead Stephen in question them first, and then I go open for the other question then. If they ask finance with now the IMF conditionalities that were attached to the influx of money. And for the security sector, they ask why we not call the recently arrested people, we not refer to them as COUPists or terrorists, as previous protesters were. And obviously the question about the statement on Niger, I feel like I've answered that anyway. And then they ask the security whether troops are being readied under the ECOWAS directive, and if any group do apply for peaceful protests as well in August. That's not for you, the IG. But so we hold on to the question and then take maybe a few more.
In any government, we talk about expenditure. So I want to go through some things there about just expenditure on traveling in the government for the past 4 years. It's over 180 billion. You get presidential one. They are not going to that. Another expenses to the president. How can we cut some of them peacefully? Not just that the poor man suffer $25. Quickly to the security. Who are these? And what's in a do? Because the information we get from social media also that most of the people that are arrested now, they come on at once region at this point. So we want to get this clarification also so that we can put the correct information.
All right, thank you. I'll take, you can press my video. All right, just talk loud. No.
So the one that we didn't also understand. So waiting the question they asked, Minister been talk about IMF. They say where the year begin up to this point, IMF don't give we additional money. So the question they ask, normally where IMF they give we money, they ask, hand go, hand come. So the question they ask, waiting IMF asks for what we do for that money they wouldn't give we. Minister been explain say where the year begin, IMF can tell we are due. And one thing where IMF been asked for what we do now the Finance Act for 2023. So IMF wouldn't come early this year until we say, when I get for increased revenue, or make when I do that when I get for first look at the policy and then also look at the revenue administration. So IMF tell we say one of the things them way we got ask and we didn't see what we do now the minimum alternative tax. Where IMF say, in order for me to able raise more money, when I get for implement that day. But where Parliament approved that act, they will not just grab and jump for begin for implement them. we begin engage with the public. And we still engage with the public, private sector for make sure say we agree, they go back and forth, for make sure say they self comfortable. So for answer me what in question, we not just joke. We make sure say they understand and we agree. So we go able to meet in the middle. So we not implement it as much as I might not say when I go do one, but we're not doing it. Go on for make sure say everybody comfortable. The expenses where they talk about, minister been talk say as we they increase revenue, we also they look at the expense side. To make sure say we curtail. If we they spend money to get beaucoup, we make sure say we cut down. So we also they look at the expense side. Lot of people. I'm into the MPA, you know that, right?
Yes, sir.
Good, thank you. First of all, I'm not just jump or defend government. For God's sake, me and a woman, I got 2 boys. Wait, I normally happen to me when they were born. I normally happen to that vulnerable woman. When they go for a problem, we see where to go on Abacha Street. When they can then get marketing person anti-marry, I call them, I call the secretary. What did they go on to the Abacha woman there? What did happen? He explained. Now he tell me say, in fact, they get more than 3 fractions of market women there. And let me tell you something. The market women who sit on a table, they don't ever jump basket. Now the one who not sit on a table, we got the pass like board, and they behave so. Yeah, yes. On how much I'm asking, so I say, and they behave so. And we never want that to continue. So I know what the federal government are. Government they permit for the marketplace. So you want to tell me say in una media if something happen, we not go jump on a skit. They will say, no way. We not go procedures. We not go follow them. So somebody say there, you mind the guests and me to masters together. Thank you.
I will not refer to them. I know who they investigate as coupists or terrorists. To me, coupists and terrorists, I just name no more, but what I do is a subvert authority. Subversion. I mean, people say that subversion will investigate. Who is the owner?
In the country, Mr. said that in constituency, me, at the part of my constituency is more than just barracks today, but they consider the whole country. So that's why we allow him to speak normally, because he's in charge of the internal security. In the look inwards, then they look outwards. But more of one who complement the effort through what we call now in this country, although MACP, military to civil power, and he's the civil power. But coming to ECOWAS, the ECOWAS get what they call the ECOWAS standby force, where they don't develop. As Mr. Minister said, Sierra Leone are part of the ECOWAS active member. We be done before now. We don't pledge what we call a company for that ECOWAS standby force. It's still active. The pledge is still active, but for if anything we go for go inside, that's you go for at the highest level, the decision making body. Of course, we all know.